Hello everyone! Today I'm gonna be featuring the Republic. And I'm actually a bit late into this game because I had to go open the door. I had a package, a mailman ring the door and I had to run down, so I'm actually a bit late in entering the game. Hence why you can actually see my div mate. Yes, this is one of those few games where I actually am in a division. My div mate is Maltese Knight playing Holland, and this is on the Russian server. It's full tier 10 matchmaking, and they do have some nasty ships to deal with, like of course Conqueror, Thunder, Yamato, Slava and so forth. And Republic in general is a ship that I don't particularly like, because for some reason this ship has always been cursed for me. Even when running Deadeye, which I obviously am here, I've always felt like this ship was just, somehow it didn't cooperate with me. Just too many trolley salvos. I know that the fast reload is supposed to make up for it, and it kind of makes up for it, but I always found this ship to be incredibly hit and miss. The 430mm guns do have incredible penetration, like a Yamato 24 kilometers away. If he gives flat enough broadside like this guy does, I mean the dispersion looks all over the place, but then somehow exactly 2 shells hit perfectly on his citadel, and they do have the punching power to actually score those citadels. So once again, very hit and miss, and once Deadeye is removed, which they are doing, it's gonna be even more so. I haven't really spoken about the changes to Deadeye much on YouTube. My prediction was kind of right. They are removing it, and well, they're giving free respecs to people who have spec'd Deadeye, but the problem is they're not giving free respecs to people who haven't spec'd Deadeye. And Deadeye is such a meta-defining skill. Like, the current game meta is literally called the Deadeye meta. That's how popular the Deadeye is right now. Everything is kind of circles around this one skill. So only giving free respecs to the battleships that spec it and not giving free respecs to the people who are trying to counter it, well, that seems a bit greedy to me, but well, not really that surprised. The new skill that they're adding instead was something like Swift in Silence or something similar. Basically, if you're undetected in your battleship, you do 10% faster. The skill is garbage, of course. The times that you're actually undetected in your battleships are very, very small, and spending 4 points on a skill like that is just a complete waste of points, when instead you can spec skills like Concealment Expert, Fire Prevention, or just the additional healing and damage con power. So it's not really much of a question. The skill is just trash. Even on super fast battleships like Georgia and Borgonia, I would never actually spec that skill, because ultimately you do want to be shooting all the time as much as possible, and it's the 10% just isn't a large enough benefit to justify 4 points. So overall, Deadeye is being removed, which I'm happy about. Sadly though, they're not doing anything about secondary skills. In fact, they recently made a post. They blocked a thread on Russian forums where someone asked about secondaries. Basically, there's been a bunch of tests about the secondaries, and the nerf to secondary accuracy isn't 10% like you might think it is, but the nerf to secondary accuracy is actually much, much higher. And someone posted the calculations on the forums and asked about this, and the mods locked the thread so no one could reply, and then a Wargaming employee said that yes, everything is fine, there's nothing wrong with secondaries, they still do exactly the same damage, everything is great, and we'll look into this in the fall. So the TLDR is nothing's gonna change. It's gonna continue being exactly the same, with secondary builds being completely unusable. So what has happened in battleships is basically we have gone from pre-Captain rework, where we used to run full tank build plus Concealment Expert, to post-Captain rework, where the new build is going to be full tank build plus Concealment Expert. That's what everyone is going to run, because with no Deadeye anymore, you just build full tank, and that's pretty much it. Secondaries are much worse now, so the standard build is just going to be tank plus Concealment Expert. The only difference is that, unlike before the Captain rework, the skill build is now 2 points more expensive, and much more expensive in terms of Commander XP. So I mean, we've basically gone full circle. The only difference is now it's more expensive for you to do it. Not exactly impressive. Some really terrible volleys on the Minotaur that dispersion went all over the place, but then kind of made up for it by managing to nail the Henry with a double citadel. At this point, basically the other side of the map is entirely collapsing. We have D control, and looking at all the ships pushing down, my teammate says he wants to go for A, and I think it's a really good idea. So I try to cross through the center, maybe see if I can get some crossfires on the enemy ships, and allow my Holland to basically secure A, while I look out for anyone trying to push from the south to intercept him. That's the idea, and of course I do want to try to nail this full broadside Yamato. We just saw him citadel him earlier from, what, 24 kilometers. So I have high hopes that, especially with Deadeye active, I'm kind of sitting just at the edge of Deadeye. Just maybe I can get some huge volleys in on him. I am at the waterline, I pull the trigger, and one of the reasons why I'm not really that big of a fan of the Republic shows itself. Instead of any citadels, we do 6,000 damage. Only 3 shells landed, and somehow one was even a shatter. And he just starts angling away, and basically the damage goes down the drain. Nevsky pops up, so I switch from him, obviously with the Holland as my teammate. And just in general, you always want to target these light radar cruisers. I want to see what exactly he's doing. And just as I pull the trigger to shoot him, I realize that Salem has actually charged out of A, and Maltese is also caught entirely by surprise. I guess none of us really expected, with me sitting in the center completely spotted, that Salem would come charging out the way he did. But he did it, and, well, plans don't always hold, and plans don't always work as you want to, and as soon as I can reload, I do take my shot at him, and I do manage to devastate him, but it wasn't fast enough because he did manage to kill Maltese from full HP before I managed to delete him. So now we are in somewhat of a trouble. However, the Nevskys knows it. If you push your nose in like this in a light cruiser, well, you really have no escape. So I'm just happily gonna sit here, take pot shots, even with Republic's questionable dispersion when there's no Deadeye, and just basically gonna try to delete him as quickly as possible. 430 is overmatched 30mm of armor, and Nevsky doesn't even have that. So I know he's absolutely guaranteed dead, and the crossfire does kill him quite quickly. At this point, I think we're on pretty safe. We have 2 caps. Shimakaze is about to take the 3rd cap. I have 2 Des Moines parked with inside islands. Perfect position. I got a Yoshino and a Montana sitting far back. And honestly, all of us can just use the Shimakaze spotting to just farm all these BBs. Like, the enemy BBs are in terrible position. All 5 of their BBs are alive, but all of them are sitting in one corner, so we can just angle and hide from them, and we can just take pot shots at these ships as they try to push into A. I'm thinking this is an easy win. All my team needs to do is, well, sit back and farm. We're gonna farm some big damage as they try to dislodge this Shimakaze, and if the enemy Shima tries to play too aggressive, he'll have to push into Des Moines radar, so this is gonna be an easy win. However, the way I look at the game, I've noticed quite often, is not the way my teammates look at the game. Instead of utilizing all this fantastic natural cover and this great position, both my Des Moines decide that the correct choice against 5 battleships is not to utilize terrain, where the squishy hulls can perhaps deal some damage and farm, but instead to rush into the open water to fight 5 battleships at once in open water gunboating. To no one's surprise, this is not the most impressive of tactics. My Montana, instead of utilizing terrain, I think he sat in the open, and he managed to get himself killed by the Thunder, and now both my Des Moines are stuck nose in against 5 BBs. And the biggest problem is, I can't really do much about it, because the Shimakaze in the north, he hasn't contested B. Note that there's a Shimakaze on D2, and he was sailing this way, and he hasn't contested B, which means that he's either north of B or south of B. And I'm suspecting he's south of B, actually trying to push into the center to try to come here and torp people. So I'm thinking he might be right in front of me, basically at any point. So pushing out at this point is incredibly risky, and I'm trying to desperately ping my teammates to get back and stop pushing. But even the Yoshino that was sitting behind islands in perfect safety, able to just lob shells from like basically F7, well, even he has decided no, he wants to charge out into the open and fight all of these full HP battleships in the open in a Yoshino of all things. So both the Des Moines have already died, and the Yoshino caught nose in and being shot by everyone is obviously going to be the next one. I'm a bit frustrated because I can't really utilize my health in any way, and there's not really much you can do to help cruisers who decide to play like this. Like, if you want support in World of Warships, you have to put yourself in a position where your team can help you. It's kind of like a Shimakaze asking you to kill their radar cruiser, but then he smokes up and doesn't spot the radar cruiser, so you can't help him in any way. And then he sits there in his smoke being radared and killed, and no one could help because he wasn't spotting him. It's kind of the same thing with these cruisers. I can't really help them if they all of them decide that instead of utilizing this fantastic terrain and advantage we have, they all need to charge into the enemy team in the open and basically get themselves killed. Note that I am spotted, so I'm very worried. The DD is potentially in front of me. That threat I was worried about, the Shimakaze, he might be sitting right in front of my face. And this is worrying. So I start reversing, but then I can't be sure that potentially did he play the long con and he sailed all the way around the B line to try to get some crossfire torpedoes. So I reverse for a bit and then I stop. Because there is a risk, because I'm still detected. If the Shima was in front of me, it's unlikely he would keep me spotted for this long. So the Shimakaze has probably sailed all the way north and potentially is torping me as we speak. So this is where I decide now it's time to go full acceleration and just push into this gap, hoping that he has in fact gone to the right, and in that case I will be juking potential torpedoes. It's a gamble at this point, because with all our DDs dying and all our radars dying, you have to take gambles. You have to make guesses, and in this case my guess is perfect. He's exactly where I thought he would be, and I do manage to juke his torpedoes by reversing and accelerating again, and all his torpedoes whiff. And I duck behind the islands, and I am once again undetected. An important thing now is to maintain C at all costs. We cannot lose C. The longer we have C in control, there's 7 minutes left in the game, the longer we have C in control, the better our advantage. Problem is, they have a Thunder, and even at that angle that I am, the Thunder deals 15,000 damage with his AP. Thunder's AP performance is great, and his dispersion is much better than mine, and especially with the superstructure that this ship has, the Thunder just does silly damage, regardless of if he shoots AP or HE at me. I try to go for no Citadel, but sadly, Republic AP performance with no Deadeye is not exactly the same as the Thunder's. I see that B is contested, so I cancel any push I have, because that Shimakaze that was north has now turned around. He's really just trying to intercept me. I think he knows that if he kills me off without them sustaining any casualties, that's a potential way to secure the win. So once again, I reverse. I might overturn a bit because, well, Republic's rudder shift is quite terrible, and the Thunder gets another nasty volley in on me, and I eat 16,000 damage. I hope to get some sits in on him, but once again, Thunder has the best rudder shift of all battleships. It's 8.9 seconds with the rudder mod. I think it's something like 10 seconds without it. It's basically cruiser rudder shift, so he can easily turn in before I can even shoot, and just angles himself to the extent that I can't deal any damage. At this point, I'm going for a bait. The idea is I make it look like I'm reversing away to bait the Shima away from B, and more importantly, I want to push down, and hopefully the Thunder will angle against my Conqueror. You see, my Conqueror has firing lines on the Thunder, and ideally he will angle against the Conqueror, and I will catch him full broadside, being able to pick up a quick kill and hopefully secure this kill. But the Thunder actually gives full broadside to the Conqueror, and he's perfectly angled against me. I quickly switch target to the Slava because I realize I need to do as much damage as possible. That is my goal here. With the Thunder nose in, it's too late to back off. I have to go for it. I have to deal as much damage as possible so that my Shimakaze with potentially one torpedo or just a Thunder can pick up the kills. Thunder still gives full broadside to the Conqueror, but Conqueror sadly shoots HE instead of AP, so this Thunder gets to make a full broadside turn right in front of the Conqueror without being punished at all. I get some great volleys in the Slava, about 40,000 damage, but at this point I have to try to go for the drive-by on the Thunder. However, I'm so worried because I only have 22,000 health, that if the Thunder reloads his guns, he will be able to kill me before I can get the damage in. His great rudder shift allows him to outturn me easily, but I do try to go for the shot at the very last moment. Surprisingly, his volley doesn't actually kill me. I go for the volley the exact same time as him, but it doesn't score any citadels either. I think the timing was okay because I couldn't know if I would have lived or died through the volley, but I think I could have aimed slightly bit towards the center with that front turret. I knew my back turret would bounce, but the front turret did have some good chances of scoring citadels. However, My goal of dealing as much damage before I go down does pay some dividends. Shimikaze lands a torpedo on the Slava, and because of the damage I've done, he manages to pick up the kill. And because of all the damage I did to the Thunder before going down, our Conqueror is also able to pick up this Thunder kill. At this point, the Republic does pick up our Conqueror because, well, he gives far too much broadside and for some reason insists on closing the distance with him. But our Shimikaze lands torpedoes and just runs away, which wins us the game. This was a classic example of I thought this game was done and dusted, and my team kind of changed my mind. And even then, there were mistakes that happened to us. Like this, sometimes players do things you won't expect. Like the Salem. If I'm playing a Salem, and I know if Maltese is playing a Salem, and there's a Republic right in front of him, the last thing he wants to do is push out. That's literally the last thing on your mind, because you know the Republic overmatches and deletes you. But this Salem, he didn't think that far, and he just charged out, and it actually lost us our Holland. So plans, like who was it who said that plans rarely survive the first engagement? And this was a good example of many plans and many ideas. Some of them worked, like I managed to juke the Shimikaze, but some of them failed terribly, like just holding our position to secure the win or catching the Thunder broadside. But ultimately, the damage output was actually quite surprisingly high this game. I managed to score 365,000 damage, which for the Republic is quite an achievement for me, because generally, as I mentioned, I don't really like the Republic. I don't feel that comfortable in it, and it is not one of my best performing ships by any means. 11 Citadels, only 2 kills, but the damage we scored was quite significant. In fact, looking at the team score, we did get 3.2k base XP, which tells us just how much damage we did to these separate ships. Detailed report-wise, surprisingly good accuracy with 103 hits out of 248 shells. Generally, it just does not collaborate that well for me, or the ship generally doesn't behave that well for me. A 15-minute game, 1.7 million potential, basically all of it probably scored mostly towards the end. This ship is, I still can't say I particularly like the Republic, but games like this does make me understand why some people enjoy it. Those fast reloading guns with all that punching powers can be extremely satisfying. The keyword really being can, because I think once the Deadeye change goes through, I'm once again gonna like this ship less. There's a lot of ships that are simply gonna be less enjoyable once Deadeye is no longer a thing. But ultimately, I still think the removal of Deadeye is a good thing, because any captain skill that encourages passive play instead of aggressive play shouldn't have a place in the game. Because if you're directly telling players that the safer you play, the better your dispersion, even though good players understand that you shouldn't change your gameplay too much. You should basically, if you got 12 km concealment, you should sit at 12.5 kilometers where you got the best possible dispersion plus Deadeye active. Most players don't understand this, however, and we can see this on the server. People think that Deadeye means you have to sail all the way to the J line and you have to snipe across the map. And sadly, sometimes sacrifices have to be made because the player base just doesn't understand better. That is the way of World of Warships. Anyways, let me show you guys my recommended build. I didn't have a 19-point captain, I didn't have a 21-point captain because I am playing on my Russian account, so I have a bit of a sketchy captain builds going on here because I'm simply missing points. I haven't had time to grind because 21 points is a long way to grind. Alright, starting off, equipment-wise, I actually have turret survival. I think you can go for auxiliary armament mod as well, because the turrets are actually quite tanky on the Republic. This is no Jean Bart or Bourgogne that ends up losing turrets all the time. Improved speed boost, better dispersion, additional tankiness, concealment, and faster reload. I hate the legendary mod on the Republic because I think the lack of range is too much of a sacrifice, especially considering you don't have spotter plane. That's probably one of the other things I don't like about the ship, not having spotter plane. I like smoke firing, I like shooting around islands, and lacking these things does kinda annoy me. Captain build wise, if you have Honor, his improved adrenaline rush makes him extremely good. Build wise, I do run Expert Loader, because if you do have to deal with those pesky destroyers, I love Priority Target. In fact, I love it so much that I prefer it over Expert Marksman on this ship. Although Expert Marksman can absolutely be really, really good, because it does give you minus 8.3 if you have Honor, which is a fantastic advantage. So this choice I leave to you. Grease the gears might be better if you prefer it. Adrenaline Rush as the third point. After that, if you go for tank, you just start with Fire Prevention, but if you want Deadeye, you go Deadeye plus Concealment Expert and then Fire Prevention. However, with the new skill set, or with them removing Deadeye and replacing it with that garbage skill that basically gives you speed if you're undetected, which is obviously very, very situational and poor, you just instead go emergency repair, which is basically the exact same build as we used to run before the commander rework. Back then you ran Fire Prevention, Concealment Expert, Superintendent, AR, Priority Target, Expert Loader, and Expert Marksman. So and I think you had basics of survivability sometimes. So basically we're just going full circle back to the exact same build as we used to run. So once Deadeye is nerfed, just get Emergency Repair Expert instead. It's really, really good. It gives you a lot more survivability. Not as good as Deadeye, but once it's gone, it's going to be the best 4-point skill and easily the one you should be going for. Flag-wise, fairly standard. Speed, heal, reduce flooding, reduced fire, ram, because you can actually get some good rams in this. Maybe I should have rammed the Thunder. I don't know. Hindsight, he still outmaneuvers me, so it's hard. His rudder shift is so good. He's literally got half my rudder shift and a better turning circle, so it's really hard to try to pull that off. Faster consumables, secondaries, AA. Pretty standard battleship flags. Not much to talk about, and the builds are also going to continue being very generic after the commander rework, or the changes to the commander rework, so we've gone full circle. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this Republic game, some good damage output, and I think I will be covering my Yamato game because I had a lot of requests for it. I did have, I think, a 330,000 Yamato game as well, so I might be featuring that one next. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.